Welcome back, everybody. Sarcasm Speaks, Jared and Bob here. So one of the things I wanted to start out with is actually, have you seen Wolf of Wall Street?
It's funny. I don't know if I've ever watched it beginning to end,
Ah, interesting. Like one of
which
those movies.
which would mean that I probably haven't seen the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a few movies like that, I guess, that like I've seen in totality, but I've never actually
Yeah, I've never
sat
sat down. I don't know. I
and
don't know
watched
if I've
from
ever
beginning
sat
to
down and
end.
watched it
Yeah.
because I was thinking about that because someone said, "Oh, it's like in Wolf of Wall Street, whatever," and I'm like, that doesn't sound familiar. And then it's like, "Oh, the scene, whatever." I'm like, maybe I haven't actually watched this movie from beginning to end.
Yeah.
It's also hard because I remember like obviously the cerebral palsy scene. And then there's like the scenes that are like memes and gifs and whatever. But truthfully, I don't remember the plot, so I don't think I've ever actually like consecutively watched it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, oddly enough, this is also a crazy tangent, but whatever. Great way to start out.
Weird.
The Pitch Black. You ever seen Pitch Black? It's the original
So with Vin
Chronicles
Diesel.
of Riddick. Yeah, with Vin Diesel. So Chronicles of Riddick was the big movie. That was actually the sequel. That ended up being like this big blockbuster, whatever. But Pitch Black was the first of the sequel. Um, and that is the movie that I have seen in like totality, but like never actually sat down and watched it from beginning to end.
Well, it's like the same thing with the Harry Potter movies. I think I've seen every scene from every movie, but I've never watched one movie from beginning to end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, Wolf of Wall Street. You know the scene, but maybe you do, maybe you don't. Who
Maybe.
knows?
Who
There,
knows?
there's a scene in Wolf of Wall Street where Leo stands up and he goes, "I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving." And he does like this
Yep.
whole thing and everyone gets fired up.
Yep.
That's basically what Joe Biden is doing right now. Because obviously after the debate, there was a lot of people obviously on the right, conservatives, and then surprisingly enough, a lot of people in the media were kind of like, oh man, like this guy's kind of fucked. Like maybe he shouldn't run. Like it was really after the debate was the first time where like people that don't have like a dash R after their name, right? Were like, oh shit, like maybe this guy like actually shouldn't run for president, right? First time in 4 years, right? Because people, again, Republicans were saying that leading into the 2020 election too. Like that was a topic. It was, oh, Biden's got fucking dementia in 2019, 2020. So here we are in 2024. The debate was terrible. Now you get people from the media, left leaning media, CNN, even New York Times wrote articles being like, oh, maybe he shouldn't be the candidate. So what does what does Joe Biden do? He writes a letter, which I know I'm making fun of it, but like that's like the presidential thing to do. Like you don't just fire off an email to all the senators and House of Congress, the House in Congress, right? House of Representatives. Um, you write, go ahead. Yeah, you write a letter, you send it out. You may send it out digitally, but like I get it. You're the president, you write letters. Whoop de fucking do. But what he did was he wrote a letter to all the Democrats in the government saying that he isn't going anywhere. He said, uh, now that you have returned from the July 4th recess, I want you to know that despite all the speculation in the press and elsewhere, I am firmly committed to staying in this race, to running this race to the end, and to beating Donald Trump. So after he talks about his ability to beat Trump, he goes on to say, I can respond to all this by saying clearly and unequivocally, I wouldn't be running again if I did not absolutely believe I was the best person to beat Donald Trump in 2024. So I chuckled when I read that because I think it's funny, but honestly, I don't know if he's really incorrect, which is a sad, sad state of affairs.
Well,
Um,
I'm I'm also like I know like well there's a couple things here, right? So it's like so if he's not fit to run, that means he's technically not fit to be president right now.
yeah, you could draw that conclusion.
And then it's like,
A sane
well, no, no,
person
no,
could
no.
draw
He's
that
okay
conclusion.
now, but
Yeah, right, right.
whatever. So it's like, all right, well, if he's okay now, then I guess he's okay to run because you can't. Well, I mean, you can vote however you want, but you can't base your nominees on. Well, we don't know if this person's going to make it at this point. At this point, because they're set,
Yeah,
or they're not set, but like effectively they're set.
yeah.
And that's the other thing is like the Democratic Party won't have, and we know it's well within their rights not to, but like they're not going to primary, or could they do like a special primary, like
It's
rush one in?
too late for that
Yeah,
now
so they can't even do that. So then they're effectively just appointing someone.
because they did have primaries. Remember, RFK primaried him, and so did Marianne
Oh,
Williamson and the guy from Minnesota or Wisconsin. That guy with like a very generic white person name that I can't remember. Um, they all primaried him, and he beat all of them. So because that's actually another thing he put in the letter. He goes, "We had a democratic nomination process, and the voters have spoken clearly and decisively. I received over 14 million votes, 87% of the votes cast across the entire nominating process, which was a process open to anyone who wanted to run." And now this is the point where I know he didn't actually write this, because then he goes on to say only 3 people chose to challenge me. One fared so badly that he left the primaries to run as an independent, that being RFK Jr.
sounds like Trump wrote that.
Yeah. Another attacked me for being too old and was soundly defeated. And that was the generic white guy from the Midwest. Does Minnesota and Wisconsin count as the Midwest? It does now.
I
Whatever.
guess.
The Lakes area. I don't know. Great Lakes region. The voters of the Democratic Party have voted. They have chosen me to be the nominee. Do we now just say this process didn't matter? The voters don't have a say, right? So that's basically like his letter. Um, so yeah, I mean, a couple things there, right? Like to your point, they did have a primary. He did win. He won 87% of the votes during the primary process. Um, but like I said, when I was laughing at his point where he said, "I am the best candidate to beat Donald Trump," um, I don't think that's an incorrect statement, as fucked up as that sounds, because if you look at the Democratic Party as a whole, who are their alternatives, right? Alternative number one is Kamala Harris, who, by some
He won't win.
incredible, miraculous feat, she is less likable than Joe Biden. Her approval rating is lower than Biden's. People actually dislike her more than the guy with dementia who's allegedly running the country. So you can take her off the list because that's quite a feat.
That would probably be one of those. Was it Nixon? Did Nixon absolutely boat race someone?
Yes.
That's probably what we'd be talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So um Kamala Harris would obviously be option number one as replacement. Like I said, people hate her more than Biden. Option number two would be Gavin Newsom, who is also hated, right? Outside the state of California, he is extremely hated. People do not like him. His likability factor is like zero, right? What he needs to do, and I think this is smart. I don't know if this was done on purpose, maybe. If I were the man behind the curtain in the DNC, I would have had Newsom not run for gubernatorial reelection, which I believe he didn't, right? Or isn't going to. So he will no longer be the governor. He needs to take some time to chill. If Biden wins this fall, what they need to do is give him some sort of position like whether it's Secretary of State or ambassador to the UN. He's got to do something in the cabinet to rehabilitate his image and like be the good guy, because people fucking hate him all across the country. People hate him for what he did during COVID. Again, his own state recalled him. He did win, right? That's a fact. He beat the recall. But outside of California, I don't think he's electable. So Gavin Newsom, scratch him off the list. Maybe in 2028. Like I said, it depends how things go this fall, but who knows? He might end up being the candidate regardless of what happens in 2024. But who would be number 3 on the list? I've seen Pete Buttigieg, right? Not going to win. He's gay, right? And as much as I sit here and say that doesn't matter to me, I would vote for a gay president. You're not going to convince the country, the middle of the country, right? Which again is mostly Republican anyway, but you do rely on the large cities in those red states, and that's where things get goofy, right? So like, yes, Texas is red, so the majority of Texas probably isn't going to vote for a gay guy to run for president. But if you look at Dallas and Austin, which are typically pretty blue areas, despite them being blue, they're still in Texas, right? Like, are they going to vote for a gay guy? Probably not. Probably not all of them, right? Probably not all the people that would vote for Biden would vote for Buttigieg in Austin and Dallas, right? So you're going to lose a little bit there, right? That's just a thing. Again, it's shitty. It sucks. It shouldn't be a thing, right? Your sexuality should not really matter, but it does. The fact of the matter is it does. Who else? Marianne Williamson would be number 4 on the list. She sucks. She couldn't even beat Biden in a primary. But now everyone's like, oh, yeah. Oh, no. Sorry, not her. Gretchen Whitmer, the senator or the governor from Minnesota. She faked her own kidnapping a
At
few years
Michigan,
ago.
I don't remember now.
Yeah, Michigan. I think it is Michigan. You're right. Yeah. There was a fake kidnapping, and there were 11 people that were charged in the kidnapping. I think 8 of them were FBI informants. So fake kidnapping, Gretchen Whitmer. I've seen her name floated around. Again, the governor from Michigan, that's tough. It's a tough one. That's a tough sell in other places in the country, right? So who's left? Nobody, right? Truthfully, the only person, the one and only single-handed person that could beat Donald Trump from the Democratic Party wants absolutely nothing to do with the presidential race, wants nothing to do with the office, absolutely fucking despises the office of the president, Michelle Obama. If she ran, she would beat Trump. But she wants nothing to do with it. She hates it. She hated being the first lady. She absolutely hated it. I think so. I heard on a podcast, they caught her 6 times during the 8 years of Obama's presidency on a hot mic at an event, talking about how much she hates being the first lady. She doesn't want to be a president. She's the only person that could beat Trump, wants nothing to do with it. So, to Biden's point, I'm the best chance to beat Donald Trump. Yeah, he is, because he did it already. He did it. He beat him in 2020. Fuckery aside, right? Like, were there some, was there a little bit of election fraud? Yeah, probably, right? I steal this from Joe Rogan all the time.
Strike.
The amount of election fraud in every election is never 0, right? It's never 0. There's no such thing as 0% election fraud in an election. There's going to be some, right? It's just how much, and is it enough to tip the scale? We don't know. I'm not going to sit here and speculate. Some people do. Some people say it was enough to tip the scale. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But the fact of the matter is that Joe Biden beat Donald Trump in 2020. So given everything I just said and that fact, it is absolutely asinine, but Joe Biden is actually the best candidate that the Democrats have right now with the best chance to beat Donald Trump. How fucking bananas is that?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, this is like the other thing that sucks about all this shit is like, in order, so because when you think about it, it's like, all right, so who realistically could take over for this guy? And it's like no one is given a decent platform because the president is the face and the president is the guy, and it's my team, your team, my team, your team. The leader of my team needs to be like the one instead of like building up like a bunch of people that might be halfway decent.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then when it comes to it, you're talking about like either retreads or by default. And it's like Kamala Harris, that's by default. That's only because she's vice president of the country right now.
Right.
She has done nothing to warrant being president. It's like Gavin Newsom. That, yeah, I mean, his name's been floated a million times. Like, but what has he done?
Right.
Nothing. Got recalled in his own state.
Yeah.
And then, they talk about Michelle Obama, and it's like just because she's Barack's husband doesn't mean she's the fit
I know
or
that
wife,
was a
whatever.
Freudian slip, but it's hilarious because people think she's a dude.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Great. Ooh, controversy.
Ooh.
And then, like, whose name always comes up too? Hill Dog. Like, as if, like, the
Yeah,
2016 debacle, like, people forgot.
right, right.
And it's like, everyone still hates her. People,
Yeah,
people have not forgot about that.
which is, I think, more of an indictment on her, right? Because as much as people hate Trump, they hated Hillary even more.
Yeah.
That's saying something.
Especially now. Like, imagine if you could see that in reverse order. Like,
Yeah.
how people feel right now with these two candidates, and then go back and like watch everything from 2016. I would never do such a thing. I'd rather fucking sit there and stab myself with a needle repeatedly. Um, but I wonder if someone does that shit. Like they find like the way was if Vinny was watching the old Super Bowl.
Yeah, yeah.
People watch old Super Bowls like they're watching old election coverage
Yeah. I mean, someone's got to do it out there.
or old debates or something.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and I mean, in not for nothing, this is the same thing on the Republican side. It's just the Republican side has their guy like that they are
Right.
set on.
Right.
But if it wasn't going to be him, who is it going to be?
Yeah.
And then to the lay person, who are these people
Yeah.
and what the fuck are they doing?
Yeah, they do. They have the same problem, right? Because DeSantis is doesn't know how to talk in front of a camera. So does all the right things, says all the right things behind the scenes, does great stuff for Florida, makes Florida great, awesome. But you put that guy in front of a camera, holy shit, people do not like him. He's just
What?
a robot. He's got no personality, whatever. So
Who's the guy in
Vivek,
Texas? Do people like him?
oh, Ted Cruz, no, people hate Ted
No, not
Cruz
him.
because
Not
Trump
him.
shredded him.
Who is the governor?
Wheelchair, Governor Abbott.
Is he in a wheelchair?
Yeah, he's
Oh,
confined to a
never
wheelchair.
mind. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
FDR hid that shit.
Yeah. 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 FDR just used a bunch of blankets. Um, Vivek, my guy, right? The guy I would prefer.
Too,
People aren't going to
too,
vote for him because
no,
he's
too
Indian,
much.
right? With a name like Vivek Ramaswamy, and he's a Hindu, right? He's a practicing Hindu. Not going to win.
Yeah, the
That's not going to
Republicans
cut
need
it.
need a Christian.
Yeah, that's not going to cut it. Who else do they have? Nobody, right? They're Tim Scott. You want to talk stick in the mud? Tim Scott, fucking boring ass senator from South Carolina. Ben Carson. I mean, back in 2016, like in the primary season, like I was actually I liked Ben Carson. because he, similar to Trump, is not a career politician. And oh, what was he before trying to get into politics? He was a neurosurgeon, a quite literally a brain surgeon. So as we sit here all the time and say, "Oh, is this the best we can do in a country of 350 million people? We got Orange Man bad and a dementia guy." Well, we had the opportunity to have a brain surgeon, and
Too stupid.
we didn't like that. We chose Orange Man bad in 2016. And by we, I just mean like collectively as a Republican Party. Like, no, I'm not necessarily included in that, but just, you had the possibility of having a brain surgeon run for president, and you were like, nah, Donald Trump's funny. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. So, like, you're right. The Republicans are in the exact same boat. It's just they have Trump, who, like, in the COVID years in college football, still has eligibility because he was only president for one term, lost, and now he still has eligibility to be president, right? So, like, he can come back.
Grover
But
Cleveland, a
if
guy that had a break in terms.
um
Might have been Grover Cleveland.
Benjamin Harrison? No, was Benjamin Harrison was the guy that died after 30 days in office.
I think that's William Henry Harrison, isn't it?
William Henry Harrison. So maybe it was Benjamin Harrison that um split his presidency.
I'm betting it's Grover Cleveland. Where's Wikipedia?
Two-time separate president.
Grover Cleveland, broken up
It
by
was.
Benjamin Harrison.
Ah, okay. That's what it was. So, Grover Cleveland. He was the 22nd and the 24th president.
Like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, if Trump had won in 2020, we'd be just as fucked, right? Because Biden probably wouldn't be running, or maybe he would, right? Like maybe he would be running. And who would it be again? Like, would it be DeSantis against Biden, right? Like,
No, I think I would, as little faith as I have in political parties, I would like to have thought that if Trump got in 2020, knowing that he can't run again, they would have started to bring somebody up.
yeah.
Like somebody else, like not fucking DeSantis.
Well, I think they tried that with DeSantis, and it didn't work
Yeah, and it
because
didn't
Trump
work.
just shredded him.
But see, the key there is Trump was still around.
Right. He still had his eligibility.
Exactly. And he don't give a fuck. So
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, I'm still here, and this is how this is gonna work.
Yeah. He was coming back for his super senior COVID year.
Yeah, medical red shirt.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be optimistic that they would have started to bring someone through. But then they didn't bring anyone through for 4 years because they knew Orange Man bad, run again.
Yeah.
It's fucking sickening. The whole thing. The whole thing is just fucking, it's so idiotic. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is pretty bad, right? That like this is where we are. It's really going to be interesting.
We're still doing it. I think that's what pisses me off the most is we're still doing this. And that's where you know that current politicians and candidates, they truthfully have nothing to do, offer, or say because no one's bringing anything to the table.
Yeah.
The only things they're talking about are shit that was spoken about exactly 4 years ago.
Right.
Nothing has changed. And like, that's the thing is like, no one has, I don't know one fucking platform that either of these idiots is actually going to do. And then even with that, if they did come up with something like close the border, open the border, fucking who the fuck knows what. Then I have no faith that they'll actually execute.
Right.
Because that's the other thing is like, what was like that internet for everybody? It's been
Yeah.
like three
Yeah.
years. Like everyone's going to get internet, and exactly 0 people have received internet from that program. Like I
Yep.
saw that tweet earlier today.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing is like, even if you come at me with like go right back to 2020. Oh, we're gonna forgive student loans. Well, you haven't.
Yeah.
We're gonna give all voters a stimulus check. Didn't do that. You tried to bribe the people in Georgia. That didn't work. Or I guess it kind of worked. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck happened in Georgia. I really don't care
It
either.
worked because the governor, the Senate race, right? Whoever the
No, it was the
Democratic
presidential
senator,
race.
well, whoever the Democratic senator was, beat Herschel Walker, who was
Oh,
running as a Republican.
oh. Well, either way, people were told if they voted for Biden, they were going to get a stimulus check, which that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And like that's the other thing is like even if I like so say I woke up out of a time capsule, like I was frozen in space in maybe the year 1969 or so, and after I take a 45-minute piss and get my fucking Swedish made dick enlarger or whatever, um, and like you're like, all right, like, hey, the election's like tomorrow, like you got to vote, and it's like, oh fuck, shit. All right, who's running? It's like you got this guy and this guy. It's like, oh fuck, I remember these guys from when I was frozen. That's not good. And then it's like, all right, well, what are they running on? Like,
Yeah.
what are their platforms? What are their thoughts and whatever? Well, one guy tweets mean things and the other one's old and might have dementia. It's like, well, that's not what I fucking asked. I asked, what are they like gonna do? Like, what are their
Yeah.
campaign? What are they campaigning on? Well, one of them's kind of in like some court cases, and the other one, everyone doesn't think should actually run. It's like, again, you still haven't answered the fucking question here.
Right.
Like, imagine explaining this to a fucking alien.
Yeah.
The alien would just like fucking beep up to like the rest and just be like, just fire the fucking laser. These people are too fucking stupid. Like, this is idiotic what's happening down here.
Well, it's hilarious, right? Because that's actually a really good point. If you think back, even what is that now? Shit, 15 years ago with Obama in '08, right? Obama ran on change and hope, right? Like those were his two slogans for his two campaigns. Going in, he was running on healthcare for everybody, right? So what Mitt Romney already did in Massachusetts like 10 years prior.
Yeah, just copy the work, but like
Yeah.
don't make it look too similar.
Yeah. Um, so, but like he had a platform he was running on, right? Like it was hope, change, Medicare for all. Like that was his thing, right? I'm too young to remember what George Bush ran on in 2000.
No clue.
But I know Al Gore ran on climate change, right? The world's going to be underwater by 2020. Well, Al, it's 2024
Listen, Al, we
and
can all hope, man.
it's
Like,
not underwater still.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah, but by 2050,
yeah,
all the
we're
ice is going to be gone. Uh, okay, I we'll see, I guess. Right? Like I love the things on Twitter where people pull up like news articles and headlines from like the 1970s that say like, oh, the polar ice caps will be melted by 1999. It's like all this, like they just keep kicking the can down the road when it comes to that stuff. And it's like, listen, man, like I'm not gonna sit here and say climate change is like fake, right? Like obviously the weather is changing and the climate does change. How much of that is natural, right? The earth has been here for quite literally billions of years, right? And it's gone through multiple ice ages. Like the temperature fluctuates from time to time, right? Like that's normal. How much of what's happening in the last 2, 3 decades is normal, and how much of that is influenced by whatever the fuck humans are doing on there? I don't know, probably a little bit of both, right? But I would say it's probably mostly normal, right? So don't just sit here and be like, oh, by 2050. Well, really, because the last 30 years, you've just been saying, well, by 1999, well, by 2012, oh, by 2020, now it's 2050. Like, all right. And then in 2050, you're going to tell me by 2072. Like, I don't care, man. Like, you're full of shit, really. That's what it comes down to. But
You just kind of gave me a thought. I think we need another ice age.
yes,
I think a lot of the world's problems would be solved if we had another ice age.
I would gather to say all of the world's problems would be
Because
solved
like
if we had
literally
another ice age.
only the strong would survive. So I would either survive or it wouldn't be my problem anymore because I don't know where I fit on that scale.
You would have to live probably within 15 degrees latitude of the equator on either side.
Yep. So you got to find your way down there. Fine.
We're going to Mexico. Imagine that. Everyone from the United States jumping the border into Mexico.
Well, we kind of let you do this for a while. Yeah. Well, we'll just shoot you. Um, you wouldn't have to worry about fucking pronouns and protests and any of that shit.
Right.
People would only be like trying to survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I'm in. I'm in for another ice age. Bring it on.
That's the 2024 what is that? The campaign flag, right? And up top it says Meteor Ice Age. That's that Ice Age is the VP. So it's Meteor Ice Age 2024. That's who we're
Yep.
voting for. That's who
In.
we support.
In.
I might have if I have free time, I might have to make that on Canva and put it on Instagram.
So in.
um so yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't remember what George Bush ran on, but I know Gore ran on climate change. Obama ran on hope, change, Medicare for all. Um, I don't know what Romney tried to run on, but I know John McCain was like your classic kind of conservative, probably running on like, veterans affairs and things like that, because that's what people remember, right? People never remember what the slogan was from the guy who lost, right? Because they just don't care. But then in 2016, Trump ran on securing the border, and Hillary ran on calling Trump and his fans bucket of deplorables, right? Like she didn't have a plan. So 2016 was the first time, at least in our adult lifetime. Again, I don't know how unprepared people were in the 90s. I think HW got shellacked by Clinton in 92. And then I don't know who Clinton beat in 96, but it was probably a shit show. But so 2016 was the first time really where a candidate like didn't have a platform. Like, what was Hillary's platform? She didn't run on anything. She ran on calling Trump a loser, right? She ran an anti-Trump campaign because she thought, oh, I got this in the bag. Everyone else did. The whole world, the whole country thought Hillary had it in the bag. It was going to be, Nixon, right? It was going to be another Nixon where she's just going to roll Trump. There's no way he has a chance. She doesn't need to have a platform she runs on. She's just going to call everyone a bucket of deplorables. And what happened? She got her fucking ass kicked, right? And then 2020 rolls around, and well, the other thing Trump ran on in 2016 was drain the swamp, right? That was his slogan: drain the swamp, and then secure the border. 2020, people were kind of like, "Hey, man, you had 4 years in office and you didn't drain the swamp that you said you were going to do." And there were some other things that, like, what are we doing here? Like, what are you really running on in 2020? Like, I don't know what his platform was, just like make America great again or keep America great, right? Like that was like that's all you got, dude. Like you don't have a plan, right? And what did Biden run on? Student loan forgiveness, right? That was his big thing. That was abortion rights, right? For all women, pro-choice for all women. And what happened? He ended up winning, right? And now in 2024, Neither fucking guy has a platform because one of them can't, because he can't formulate thoughts or sentences. And the other guy is doing the same thing he did in 2020. He's just speaking in rhetoric.
Yeah, I've been trying to go back and see. I just tried to pick like one year, 2018 or 2008, sorry. Just kind of coming up with like anything that like McCain kind of ran on since we were talking about it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't actually really seem like, well, so this is actually interesting. It goes back to a time where there were like topics
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Right. Imagine that.
like there would be like topics that people in the country thought were important, and then the presidents would have like a stance or so on it. Um, so like the war in Iraq, going back to 2008, it was so the war in Iraq.
Yep.
Uh, as no one could tell, or as anyone could guess, John McCain supported the war. Barack Obama opposed it. Well, think about that at the time. The war was very unpopular. Where were people probably going to side on that front? Plus that was like the David Petraeus shit, like same time.
Yeah.
Anyway, George Bush's unpopularity. Everyone hated that fucking guy, and McCain effectively supported him mostly. Age issue. I don't know why this would be relevant, but there was an issue with McCain because he was turning 72 in the election year, which means he would have
Imagine
been
that.
80 if he completed 2 full terms.
The guy you got now is 82 running again, and the guy going against him is 78.
It's fucking stupid. Um, yeah, and then Obama promised healthcare, employment, green America, whatever. Oh my
It's
God, Sarah Palin was the fucking vice president. Oh my
oh
God,
yeah.
what a debacle. Who the fuck was in charge back then?
Yeah, some idiot.
Then the economy, you know how that goes. Like
Yeah.
healthcare, McCain wanted open market, Barack Obama wanted universal. That's pretty in line with political parties. Yeah, I mean, like, again, there used to be these topics,
Yeah.
and like you would have to kind of like have a position and defend your position and, you know, remember which side you're on, but also like formulate your opinion, like your
Right.
thoughts and what
Right.
platform are you going to run on.
Yeah, it's funny because I saw a video of Romney and Obama after one of their debates. Like they go up and shake hands with each other. They're laughing, they're joking. Like during there was like a cut scene from one of their debates where, they were like, oh well, I want to be respectful, but at the same time, like you're wrong, right? Like how they were kind of like going back and forth, being like cordial to each other. And then they show the debates between like Trump and Hillary and then Trump and Biden, and it's just fucking chaos. Like one of they're calling each other names, and then at the end of the debate with Biden, like a couple weeks ago, they both just walk off the stage in either direction, like don't even look at each other, and it's just like, wow, we've come a long way since Obama and Romney. But I think to your point too, right, when you're talking about like the unpopularity thing and especially the economy, I think when times are bad, it's almost guaranteed when there's a presidential election, it's just going to go the other way, right? Like that's just what happens. So, uh, 1999 or 2000 was probably the closest thing we had, right, to a, a equal time. Like the 90s were great, right? Clinton, despite him being a womanizer and a poon hound, um, the country was in a great spot. The economy was great. Everything was great. We really were only involved in the Gulf War. Well, that's not true. There was the Bosnia thing, but there wasn't like a major episode, right? Like a 20-year war or, something like Ukraine and Russia that's going to go on for 20 years now. Um, Anything like that, right? 90s were great. So going into 2000, that was kind of like equal footing. And Al Gore almost won, right? Like we almost could have had 16 years under a Democratic president, but we didn't, right? Because that's just, I think when people get to a certain point, they just want different, right? They just want something different. So, like you had said, George Bush was pretty unpopular by the end of his second term, and Obama ran on change, right? Like I'm different. I'm the different guy. I'm gonna do stuff different. And people were like, yeah, fuck it, I'll vote for that guy because we don't like Bush and we just had 8 years of Bush and we want different. So they went to Obama, right? And then they had 8 years of Obama. And by the end of his presidency, people were not fans of him. And they were like, this guy kind of fucking sucks. Like all he does is talk. He speaks well, but he has no action. Like he hasn't actually done anything other than Obamacare, right? The universal health care. Other than that, like he didn't really do anything, and we want something different. And Trump rolls in and goes, "Oh, I'm going to drain the swamp." And then they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll vote for that guy." Right? That's cool. I like that. Get rid of all politicians. Fuck them. Then in the middle of Trump's eligibility, right after his sophomore season, he has to take a medical red shirt because COVID happens, and the government decides to shut everything down. Literally, the economy shuts down. So, and it couldn't recover. And things were in a pretty bad spot. So, what did people do? They were like, well, this fucking sucks right now. So, let's just vote for the other guy because we just want different. Right. And then Biden won. So, I mean, it's not as simple as that, right? It's not as clear cut like that's what happens, but there's a trend. There's a trend there for sure. Right. Like, you get to a certain point when something happens in the country and people are unhappy, they're just going to vote for the opposite candidate because they just want something different. They're fed up with what it is. And right now, people are fed up with Biden. So they're probably going to vote for Trump and he's probably going to win.
I was gonna say,
And
I feel
then
like
in 2028, unless the Republicans can get their shit
it's
together,
going blue.
it's probably going to be the Democrat.
Oh,
Unless
it's going
Gavin
blue.
Newsom is the candidate and he fucks that up somehow, or Kamala Harris is the candidate, right? Like Jesus
I think they're
Christ,
smart. So
I
listen,
would
I
hope they're
like.
smarter than that.
I think they are. I think the people behind the scenes,
Yeah,
whether that's the donors, that's the like the money people, like not
yeah,
even like the chairperson of the fucking DNC. I think the money people will be fucking smarter than that.
yeah. So yeah, like I said, like you can almost write it in, right? Whoever the candidates are in 2028, probably going to be a Democrat, right? Unless something bad happens in 2032, probably win re-election. 2036, probably going to be a Republican candidate. Whoever it is, that's probably when they're going to win, right? Like that's just what happens. So
I mean,
I
I'm
don't know.
fucking fed up with this shit. I'd like a competent candidate, and maybe I'd fucking
Yeah.
like reactivate my fucking registration because my shit expired because I don't vote.
Yeah. What if Vivek is the VP for Trump?
No,
Because
be
I'm on record and I still stand by it. If Vivek is named the VP for Trump, I'll vote for Trump. But
no,
other
be
than that, I'll probably vote for RFK.
VP isn't good enough for me.
Yeah.
This election is a lost cause for myself. Because again, it's like we're just replaying it. It's like every time in fucking WWE they brought back Goldberg, and it's like, listen, I love Goldberg, but like, come on, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Or when they keep bringing back the Undertaker, like the Undertaker has retired 3 times in the last like 6 years, and he just keeps coming back. And it's
Yeah,
like, hey man, he's like 61 years old. Like he probably should just be done, right? Like he had to retire the first time because he needed like spinal fusion surgery, and he's come back and retired subsequently twice after that. Like maybe just fucking hang it up, dude.
Yeah, maybe don't answer their call next time.
Yeah.
Bristol, Connecticut. Nope.
Straight to voicemail. But I mean, they're starting to do this shit similarly. That actually reminds me, like, brings up a good point of like the changing of the guard when things aren't well. Um, you see it all over the world, actually. Like that's what happened in Argentina, right? Like everyone hated what was going on in Argentina, so they voted for Javier Milei, who came in and was like a quasi anarchist, right? Like he's a, I mean, I say that in jest. He's a libertarian, right? But he wants to gut the government. People were like, yeah, let's bring that guy in. You see it in the UK. They had Rishi Sunak, whatever the prime minister was for the last like 6 or 7 years, was a conservative. Things aren't going well right now in the UK. They just had their election like 2 weeks ago, and the Liberal Party won. So there you go. Like they just wanted change, right? Then France, well, France, I guess is a little different. France is kind of sketchy, um, kind of fucked up when you look into it a little bit. So France had they just called an election last week, um, because earlier, like maybe a couple months ago, they had some parliamentary elections or whatever, and the right wing party won a ton of votes. So Macron, who was the president of France, was like, and again, I don't understand how parliamentary systems of government work. They can call an election at any time, which just seems weird to me because like then you could also just not call an election whenever. So like, are you just president for life until you decide to call an election? I don't know.
They also had to like dissolve the government. It was something
Yeah,
really
I
strange.
don't understand how that shit works. But parliamentary government's stupid because you have a prime minister and a president, and it's dumb. It's dumb. It's fucking stupid. Just don't do that. Just have a better government. Um, the only thing dumber than that is a parliamentary monarchy, which is the UK. Right? They have a PM and they still have a king and a queen. So whatever. So
Only if you
France,
recognize it, though.
yeah, that's true.
Apparently, that's a big thing over there. Didn't know that.
Oh,
So I
really?
was listening to one of my golf podcasts in Hack It Out, and they were talking about Nick Faldo, and Lou Stagner goes, "You mean Sir Nick Faldo?" And Mark Crossfield goes, "What?" He goes, "Sir Nick Faldo." He goes, "Yeah, sure, Sir Nick Faldo." He goes, "Only problem is," he goes, "I don't recognize the monarchy." And he's like, "You have to," he goes, "in order to like consider that," he goes, "you have to recognize the monarch," which I know. He goes, "By the way," he goes, "don't ever say that to another British person."
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, so fucking, hey, we got some problems here. I don't fucking know what's happening over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to that extent, France again did a little kind of sketchy, right? So they called a presidential election or some sort of parliamentary election, whatever. Again, I don't understand it, but there was an election a couple months ago. The right wing party won a ton of seats, so because of that, they called a new election like last week. So what had happened was the right wing party won the most votes out of there's three parties, right? There's a center, a left, and a right in France. So they have a three-party system. And the way it works, because it's a parliamentary, and I forget the word. It's not conjoined, but it's some weird term like that, which means that the two parties can decide to join together, a coalition. That's what it is, a coalition. So what happened was the right wing party had the most votes, but Macron, who's the president, who's the part of the centrist party, teamed up with the left wingers and said, let's systematically pick candidates throughout these elections to support, and then we'll have the other guy withdraw so that we can beat the right wing party, and then we can stay in power and we'll form a coalition government together. So what happened
This
was,
literally sounds like you can make it up as you go.
it does. It sounds so fucking made up. Again, that's why parliamentary government is stupid. Um, so what happened was, I think of the three parties, right? I think the right wing party won like 42% of the vote or something like that, maybe 38%. It was somewhere around 40% of the vote, but it wasn't enough for a majority. So what they did was they had a couple elections went to runoff. So in an election where it was a center left and a right, the center and the left got together and goes, oh, well, let's have the center guy drop out of this race. So then it'll be the left guy versus the right. And then in that race, we'll have the left guy drop out. So it'll be the center versus the right. So they basically, like you said, did whatever the fuck they wanted. They made it up as they went. They um colluded. I don't know if collusion is the right word, because that kind of implies like nefarious acts. I don't know if it was necessarily nefarious, because I think it's obviously within the laws of the government to do that. So, but in a
Legal
way,
collusion.
yeah, it was legal collusion. It's the legal tampering period prior to NFL free agency. So they went through the legal tampering period and they decided to select which guy was going to stay and which guy was going to drop out of the left and the right out of the elections. And because of that, the people that would have voted center voted left. The people that would have voted left voted center as a whole, right? I'm sure there were some people that did vote for the right side. But because of that, the right lost all their elections, because instead of going against two candidates, they went against one candidate, and the left and the center joined together and formed a coalition government. And now they're going to stay in power. And Macron gets to keep being president. And meanwhile, the right wing party gets to sit there with their thumb in their ass. And they're like, what the fuck? Like, people are like, this isn't fair, whatever, because they got the most votes, right? Like, they literally got more votes than the other two parties, but now they get no representation in government.
Sounds retarded, dude.
It does sound retarded. Like, I know people get a lot of shit about here between like the popular vote and the electoral college, but like
Could be worse.
for the most part, the electoral college follows along the lines of the popular vote, right? Like, yeah, everyone's like, oh, well, Hillary won the popular vote. And I was like, all right, well, fuck off. Like, it doesn't, like, there is a reason for the electoral college to exist, right? And just because your team lost this election, that's what happens, right? So, like, yeah, I'm sure in 2020, like, Republicans were like, oh, we need to abolish the electoral college. But in 2016, all the Democrats were like, oh, we need to abolish the electoral college because Hillary won the popular vote. And it's like, well, fuck off. Like, the founding fathers did that for a reason. So again, as much shit as people give for having an electoral college, yeah, like you said, could be way worse. You could have a parliamentary system where the party that gets the most votes gets zero representation. Like, at least we have like individual, like, senators, governors, you know, Republican, like House of Representatives, right? Like, you have districts and things like that where like you can win there. But yeah, if two parties collude together, you could get the most votes and you get nothing. So France is pretty sick.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, pretty awesome. The birthplace of liberty.
Yeah. Sounds it.
Yeah, yeah. They just like to revolt. They just like their revolutions. Maybe there'll be another revolution. Who knows? Maybe everyone on the right will get so pissed off that they got colluded out of government.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
France should throw it back to the 1700s.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, right, in over the course of what, like maybe 150 years, France had like three revolutions, and then they just decided, yeah, we're good. We don't need another revolution. It's like, no, 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 come on. It's like the meme of the guy with the stick, like poking the dog to like do something.
Yeah.
That's like the rest of the world to France. Like, come on, have a revolution.
Yeah, you guys are due.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see there, I guess.
Probably not. The French are fucking cowards.
Yeah. That's probably why they don't have revolutions anymore. They got soft.
Yep.
Well, on that note, I want to wrap this up. Did a lot of
We can wrap
politicking.
we can wrap this up.
Yeah, an hour of
Uh
politicking, and I'm good. I'm done.
so the big update. Michaela and I are gonna be taking our talents to Weymouth.
Oh shit.
Not sure when exactly yet. Trying to move after the honeymoon. We'll have the house
Yeah.
before that.
Nice.
We'll do some work, whatever.
You got a spot?
And hmm,
You got a spot?
yep. And if you look out the window, there's Bill's house.
No shit.
Yeah.
There
So yeah, it's
goes the
just
neighborhood.
yeah, seriously. So yeah, it just kind of worked out that the house, well, obviously there was a house available in that neighborhood.
Right.
The location of it, because my thing was like if we're gonna go to Weymouth, it's gotta be South Weymouth because I need to get the fuck out of there. Like
Yeah.
I can't be dealing with fucking 3A and all that bullshit. So South Weymouth because I can cut through like Abington, Randolph, and like find my way to work.
Yeah.
Or if the roads are clear, 93 and it takes me 25 minutes, which is what my old commute was from Milton to the old spot.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I mean it's in South Weymouth. It's close to her cousin. It's closer to her parents, her other cousin, like um kind of works all around. And then yeah, I mean we're gonna do some work with the house itself, like it's clean, it's clear. Like the woman who owned it took like super good care of it. So it just needs like a little bit of updating.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty
Um,
sweet.
so yeah, and then looking out the window. Hey Bill.
So is it on the same street or is it like around the corner?
So technically it's not the same street because his street makes a T into my street,
Okay.
but I believe we had the wrong house originally because I don't know which house number Bill actually has. I think we had it backwards.
I think he's 12.
Well, so we might have been looking at 21. He might literally be like on the corner of his road where we're on the corner of our road.
Yeah.
Like, because like I told him that and he goes, all right, well, he goes, if you need help moving or whatever, just throw a rock at the window. I go, yeah, I'll set up the
The
tin
tin
cans
cans, yeah, with the string.
across. Um, so yeah, that'll be the development for the fall.
Nice. Are you keeping that spot, selling it?
This will be sold.
Nice. And get out of there before the electrical fucking dies again.
Yeah. Although there is some trim that's like hanging from outside that the guy hasn't responded yet on. I'm thinking about accidentally getting injured by it.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
That'll be my swan song.
Yeah.
No, and I mean again, like I mean it's been good for 3 years, but the townhouse kind of like started to wear out its welcome. Then that electrical shit was like,
Yeah.
we gotta fucking do something about this.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you guys were, talking shit about the HOA and stuff like that too. Like it wasn't
Yeah, I talk a
always
lot of
like
shit.
super helpful.
I talk a lot of shit about the
I
HOA.
mean, HOAs just suck in
They all
general.
they all suck. So
Yeah.
actually showing up on my Twitter now, like in the For You stuff, is people with like HOA problems. So like I click on one and now they all show up.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh So it's like it is funny because it's not like nearly as bad as some of these horror stories. Um, just kind of over it
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
this point. And it's like, yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, we would be doing this after the honeymoon, but dude, when something pops up, you kind of have to pounce.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So at least when you'll have some time to like not need to rush out of there.
No,
And you
no,
know
so
what
we
I
don't have
mean?
to we
Like,
don't have to rush out.
yeah.
So we can actually take our time. Again, we're gonna do some work on that house, and I don't really want to move before the honeymoon. I'd rather just move after.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
when after, couldn't tell you.
Sometime after.
Sometime after.
Sometime after the honeymoon, but probably before Christmas.
Yes. It'll be in October.
Yeah. Yeah. Sweet. Literally destroying a neighborhood.
Yep. Sure are.
Yeah.
And the
uh
worst part too is like Bill on his own probably would have been fine. Me on my own probably would have been fine. But me
yeah.
me fucking next to his house, not great.
Yeah. I know. Well, I think they're moving in like now.
August-ish.
Oh,
I
I
thought it
thought it
was
was like
August.
July. I thought it was
I
like
don't
mid
know.
July.
Truthfully, I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I haven't had time to fucking grab myself, let alone figure all this shit out.
Yeah, that's true too. Because I know he was telling me about like all the stuff he got. Like he got a sauna and he like talked the guy down because it was
Perfect.
used. He was talking about
I'll be
like all
using
of
that.
his like garage gym equipment. He was like, yeah, I want to set up like, you know, if we do like Saturdays, like in the mornings, like people can come, like we'll work out, we'll hit the sauna. And I was like, yeah, dude, like that sounds fantastic. That's something that I need to
That's
in
good.
order to like
I'll
be
go in the sauna
motivated to not be
first.
a fat piece of shit.
So I'll go in the sauna first while you guys are exercising, and then when you're done exercising, I'll just go home.
Yeah, take a couple swings in the backyard, set up a net.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, or just walk home.
that's what I mean. I'm just gonna walk home.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that'll be fun. Stuff to look forward to in the fall when it's not 97 degrees and 80%
Yep.
humidity every day.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I played golf the last 3 days. It's great.
Yeah, I golfed on Saturday and
Yes, super nice.
literally drenched. I mean, I was lucky enough to I got to Chemawa at like 3 o'clock and there was no one there. So I walked 9 holes in about an hour and 15 minutes. Um, but I was wet. I was sufficiently wet when I got home. I at one point, so I get home and I'm talking to Amy. She's sitting on the couch with the baby, and she goes, "Hey, can you like not sit on the couch because your ass is wet?" And I like when I took a shower and like took my clothes off, like I looked at my shorts, my whole ass was just soaked. And I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, I was sweating pretty good.
Yeah, it's been nice.
Yeah, yeah, it's been that nice. So I cut the grass last night.
Well, you're
Like,
not being ungrateful about seasons, though, right?
oh no, 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 no. I
Yeah,
love
it'd be so
seasons.
terrible.
Yeah, it would be awful if we didn't have seasons. Could you imagine if it was 75 degrees and
Yeah, and like
60% humidity
not
every day?
say not humid.
Yeah, oh, that would
That'd
be
be
fucking
awful.
terrible. Um, all I did was cut the grass yesterday, and I have a ride-on lawnmower. So I sat on a lawnmower for like 45 minutes, and I got inside drenched in sweat. And I was like, this is insane. So my final thought is I know I told you, but I am back on my bullshit with betting on baseball. So I found a way to circumvent really having to look at every single game, like because I just don't have that kind of time anymore. When I was working at Compass, I had a lot of free time. There was a lot of shit that I just wasn't doing. So I would literally, I mean, I've talked about it on the show before. I would sit every morning for anywhere from 1 to 2 hours and just break down every single baseball game that was happening that day. I do not have that time now. So the shortcut, what I've done is I found a way to bet on strikeout props for pitchers. So the short of it, right? Not to get into like a ton of detail. I filter by teams that are the top 5% in strikeout rate. And I start there, right? So I won't get into the other part because I start there, right? So I can tell you off the top of my head because they don't really change that much. They're Oakland, Seattle, Chicago Cubs, Miami, and Colorado. Like those are the 5 teams in the MLB right now that have the highest strikeout percentage rate. So I take those 5 teams and then I look at who they're playing against that day. Sometimes none of them are playing. So if that's the case, then I go to the opposite. So I look at the 5 teams with the lowest strikeout percentage and I look at those pitchers and then I do what I'm about to say now. So you take the teams, you find the game, you look at who's pitching, right? So whoever that person is, you look them up individually. And then you find their strikeout prop, right? Like what's their line set at? Is it 4.5, 5.5, 6.5? What's the line for their strikeouts, the over under? And then what have they done recently? Right. So like if someone's, strikeout prop is 6.5, but the Oakland Athletics have strikeout significantly more than any other team in the MLB, and that number is just inflated because he's playing against Oakland. And in his last 6 games, he's only thrown more than 6.5 strikeouts once. I'm not taking that bet. I'm not doing it. So then I also look at, again, because baseball is insane and there is a mountain of statistics, I look at swinging strike percentage, right? And the contact percentage. So does this pitcher pitch to contact, or do they get a lot of swings and misses, right? Some people call it whiff percentage. So whatever, you call it whiff percentage. Some websites call it swinging strike. So if they have a high whiff percentage, right, which means not a lot of their pitches that they throw are contacted when a batter swings the ball, right? It doesn't count if you throw the ball and the batter doesn't swing the bat. Whatever happens, ball strike, not counted towards this percentage. If they have a high whiff percentage, right, and I like the number that the line is at, and they're going against one of those 5 teams, I bet the over, right? And conversely, if there's one of the bottom 5 teams and they're going against a pitcher that has a high contact percentage, right, then I'll take the under. Right? Like if a guy has a low whiff rate and a high contact rate and he's playing against a team that doesn't strike out, take the under on the strikeouts, right? Now it might be a little artificially low, like it might be 3.5. So again, you got to look at the number, you got to look at the performance and figure it out from there. But that usually takes me about 45 minutes, right? If all 5 teams are playing, it might take me about 45 minutes, right? If there's only 1 or 2 teams that are playing, might take me 10, 15 minutes just to look and be like, oh, real quick, look at the pitcher, who's going against him. Nope, don't like it. Doesn't fit, right? Cool. 2 games, I don't have any plays today, right? Like that's so it's way easier than looking into every game. What's the stats? What's this? What's that? Do I take the money line? Do I take the run line? You know what I mean? Like, do I take the over in the thing? Like, no. Do I look at bullpen percentage? Not doing any of that. Keep it real simple. And so far, I am, let's see if I can filter this to just baseball. So far, I am 7-3. Sorry. 6-1. I'm 6-1 because there's a couple money line bets in there that I just made from people that I follow on Twitter, and I lost 2 of them and won 1 of them. So taking only the strikeout props, I am 6-1 so far since I started doing this. So today I actually have two bets. And I went 1-1. So I think I texted you, I don't know the guy's name, Dylan Kramer. It's D Kramer. He's a pitcher for the Orioles. Um, Playing against the Cubs. I took over 4.5 strikeouts. That I lost. He only had 3 strikeouts. Then I took Brayan Bello, who was the pitcher for the Red Sox tonight, who was going against the Oakland A's, who strike out the most in the MLB. I took over 5.5 strikeouts. Brayan Bello got 11 strikeouts tonight. So I hit that. So I went 1-1 today. So that brings my total to what, 7-2 on strikeout props. So, like I said, back on my baseball.
It's that easy.
Yeah, it's that easy. You can buy my picks. So that's gonna do it for us. So thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe up above, hit the thumbs up down below. Subscribe if you're an audio only guy as well. Leave us 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. You can get us on Instagram at Sarcasm Speaks Pod. Twitter is sarcasm_speaks. Facebook is sarcasm speaks. Website is sarcasmspeaks.com. Check out the show notes below. Support the sponsors with all those links and discount codes and save some money, get some great products, and support the show. So until next time, good night, everybody.